was just frightening that something serious had happened on our doorstep.
This was a crime of passion. Everyone was gripped by it and wanted to know what happened.
It's quite unusual for somebody to have this sexual preference, but it's also extremely dangerous.
To hear someone doing that, stabbing someone ferociously when they're dead or dying, it was something quite horrific.
There's a heavy price to pay for that, all because of jealousy.
This was an unusual murder. It had sex, violence, jealousy, betrayal. It had all the hallmarks of a crime thriller.
My mum is heartbroken. She'll never be the same person ever again.
A quiet Sunday morning in the sleepy Hampshire district of Leigh Park.
At 8 o'clock in the morning, the police received a 999 call from a very distressed young lady.
Somebody's had their throat slit at an address in Leigh Park.
The police had to go to the house very quickly.
Having a call of this nature is highly unusual. Is this false and malicious? Is this somebody just having a prank on the police's behalf? I think the officers will be going there with an open mind, but with some trepidation as to what are we going to face when we get to this address. Police arrive at the address and they knock on the door. They can hear dogs barking and the door is opened.
Hello. You all right?
Yeah.
What's going on?
The police officer went inside the house.
Don't close the door.
One of the officers goes upstairs.
Had some kind of strange, interesting call about somebody having had their throat slit.
And they find a body in the bedroom.
The residents of Botley Drive soon find out something is afoot.
The place was swarming with police vans, police cars, whatever. They were all over the place.
You know, you couldn't see this side of the road because all the police cars were parked there, and you think something's happened.
It was quite overpowering, and you sort of wanted to know what was going on, but you didn't want to ask.
And you could see the activity, scenes of crime and pathologists and all that sort of thing were there. And it was just frightening that something serious had happened on our doorstep.
Word spreads to the local Portsmouth press.
So we received a tip-off that there was a serious incident taking place in Botley Drive. We sent a reporter out to go and investigate. The reporter went down to the scene, spoke to locals in the area. So it's quite clear this was a major incident. So there's lots of rumours swirling around. Some people thought possibly a stabbing, but it was all a big mystery.
The house is sealed off and the crime scene secured.
Normally when a police tent and cordon is erected, it normally means one thing, which is that someone's been killed.
The last thing on my mind was that it was a murder. To find out at the end that it was somebody had been stabbed, you know, it was quite shocking.
Yeah, it's awful. It's right on your doorstep. Think of it not happening in this area, but one day it could be.
Everyone just said, oh, there's loads of police, I don't know what's going on. And then that's when the speculation came and the rumours came.
No one actually knew what had happened. It was just an incident that caused a lot of fear, basically, and shock. There was a lot of questions being asked. People were concerned, and some people felt unsafe as well, because potentially there was a murder on the loose. So it was an incident that brought the community together and caused a lot of concern.
Soon, senior detectives arrive on the scene.
In the background, there'll be checks going on. You know, do we know anything about that address? Is it an address we go to on a regular basis? Are there people living at that address that the police will know that they've dealt with before? You go with an open mind, but if there's no information coming back to suggest that you know, this address is well known, we're always going there for domestics. You need to sort of have your wits about you.
At this address in Botley Drive lives 27-year-old mother of one, Shay Groves.
She had a young child who was 5 years of age. She was living with a friend. She wasn't working. From the age of 11, she was wearing hearing aids in both the ears because she was partially deaf.
In the last 6 months, Shay's been in a relationship with dad of two, Frankie Fitzgerald.
In February 2022, they met at a pub in Caution, and it looks like they clicked. He sent her a number, she rang him. At that stage, she was just getting out of a relationship, but she wanted something exciting, and Frankie came along and gave her the excitement.
But investigators uncover a string of texts, suggesting all is not well with the budding romance.
There was evidence of Frankie being dominant towards Shay. There were lots of text messages to Shay telling her what to do.
He had a jealousy towards Shay Groves' ex-partners, and he felt that she was actually seeing other men behind his back. There was a sense of distrust. She distrusted him because she still felt that he was still going out and getting in touch with his ex-partner.
It was established that around about April time, so 4 months into the relationship, that by now it really deteriorated, where Frankie's obsession and jealousy was getting worse and worse. Quite often it would end up in a really heated argument, to the point where we know Frankie had threatened violence against Shay and also threatened violence against her ex-partner as well. So much so that Shay was concerned that she shared this information with her friend because I think she feared for her safety at times.
A background check on Frankie reveals he has history.
In the past, there were cases of domestic abuse that the police had investigated, and I think he'd been convicted on one occasion.
Frankie had been before the Magistrates' Court in 2018 because he had sadly assaulted his ex-partner. And not only that, he had also damaged a mobile phone, the consequence of which he pleaded guilty to assaulting the ex-partner and stealing her mobile phone. There was a restraint order against Frankie imposed in 2018 that he should not be in contact with the ex-partner.
As details of the couple's relationship emerge, it's not long before police confirm they are in fact dealing with a murder.
The body is wrapped up in a duvet on bin liners in the bedroom with serious neck injuries that were non-survivable.
In Lee Park, Havant, at the home of 27-year-old Shay Groves, Hampshire Constabulary have discovered a body. The victim, 25-year-old Frankie Fitzgerald. The father of two has been stabbed 20 times.
Frankie underwent a forensic post-mortem. This is whereby an autopsy is carried out and forensic evidence is also captured from the deceased, but also a trained pathologist can try and interpret some of the injuries. And what was noted was that Frankie had had this fatal blow to the neck, but then there was also 19 other injuries around the chest area that wouldn't have been fatal because he was probably already dead by the time the first stab wound went into the neck.
The evidence would have suggested that effectively the main cutting that caused his death occurred around the throat area because it went across from left to right and cut the voice box, putting it simply. And then it caused torrential bleeding. It was so fierce, he would have bled out.
While forensic officers continue to comb the scene, a police presence is stepped up in the area. to calm this close-knit community reeling from the news.
It's frightening to think that that sort of thing happened. And it's a real friendly neighbourhood.
It was a sort of strange quietness, like you'd lost somebody. It was like a cloud had come down over everything, you know, and everybody was under that cloud.
Several miles from the murder scene lives Frankie's family, tragically unaware of the events unfolding in Leigh Park.
I was at my mother-in-law's having a barbecue. Then my mum turned up and the first thing she said to me was, "Have you heard from Frank?" And I said, "Mum, he's probably asleep." I said, "He's probably sleeping a hangover. His phone was off, his phone's never off." My mum was probably there for about an hour when she got a phone call from the police to say, "I'm ringing about your son." And my mum said, "What one?" And they said, "Frankie." So I took the phone and they said, "Is this Carla, Frankie's sister?" And I said, "Yes, like what's going on?" So they said, "We need to come and see you."
The police officers make their way to the family home.
We was outside and my mum was obviously pacing up and down. They asked us to go inside and go into the bedroom. And the words that they used was, "We found a deceased man in a house in Havant with a slit to his throat." And my mum just collapsed on the floor. And I was just shouting, saying, no, this is not true. It was just bizarre, like, my little brother's been murdered. I still can't get my head around it, but it was just awful seeing my mum like that.
He had 2 children from previous relationships. And yes, in the past, he was known to the police for domestic abuse, but it appeared that he'd been turning his life around. You know, he'd moved on. He had a good relationship with his children and a good relationship with his children's mother.
He was an amazing dad. He always went out of his way to get what they needed or to see them and take them out for days. There wasn't a day really that I didn't see him. So I just miss his big grin he had on his face, knocking my door really loud, and I'd know it would be Frankie knocking, or when he went slamming the door. He was just amazing, and he didn't know how amazing he was. And I wish I could tell him.
The family were absolutely devastated, but everyone was rallying round to help the family, help his friends, and to raise as much money as possible for his funeral.
Meanwhile, detectives have been focusing on the bedroom where Frankie's body was found. Items discovered at the home of girlfriend Shay Groves begin to ring alarm bells.
She had numerous pictures on her wall of famous killers. You had Charles Bronson, Myra Hindley, Rose West, the Yorkshire Ripper, numerous books. This is not normal.
Shay was someone who had an interest in knives. She had axes.